Plastic pollution is a global problem. Plastic is not biodegradable, which means that it cannot be decomposed by bacteria or other living organisms. This means that plastic has been and continues to accumulate within the environment. It's virtually indestructible. You can't even incinerate it because if you do, it emits harmful toxins into the air. Plastics circulate throughout the world. They end up in landfills and flow into the oceans and circulate within the waters through ocean currents. Aquatic wildlife is affected greatly by plastic pollution because the plastic in the water attracts waterborne contaminants and other pesticides, which then get transferred to animals through ingestion, which then tends to make its way back to us and other wildlife throughout the food chain. Also, chemicals from plastics leach into our systems, leading to problems with human health. The harsh chemicals in plastics have been linked to problems such as heart disease, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, infertility, obesity, breast cancer, prostate cancer, brain cancer, learning disorders, and early onset of puberty, just to name a few. You must be thinking, how big could the problem be? Well, we throw away 280 million metric tons of plastic every year worldwide. 300 million tons of plastic is produced globally each year, and about 10% of that is recycled. And 35 billion water bottles are thrown away by Americans every year. The environmental damage done by the millions of tons of plastic floating around the world's oceans is $13 billion a year. If we don't stop the production of these harmful plastics, they will continue to harm the environment, wildlife, and us. So, is there a solution? Well, through innovation and chemical engineering, different biodegradable and compostable bioplastics have been introduced. The one that I specifically want to focus on is SRF bioplastics, which are made from non-recyclable mixed waste, or SRF, which mainly consists of plastics, wood, fibers, textiles, and other paper that cannot be recycled. I prefer this bioplastic over others because it helps to solve plastic pollution while at the same time turning waste into a valuable resource. Now, to break it down in a way that's understandable, SRF bioplastic is a specific bioplastic called poly-3-hydroxybutyrate, which is P3HB. This bioplastic can be created in many ways. For example, it can naturally be created within the stems of plants, or it can commercially be created in bioreactors with sugars derived from plants. But the problem with both of those methods is that they require crops and agricultural land which we don't want to waste in the production of plastics. That's why this invention requires the use of non-recyclable waste instead of plants. What they do is add harmless engineered E. coli bacteria to the waste, which through degradation creates ethylene glycol and sugars. The ethylene glycol is then filtered out and sold because it is a common compound used in the fabric industry, while the sugars are used as a carbon source for the creation of P3HB. To sum up how it is actually created, all you have to know is that certain bacteria such as Ralstonia eutropha have within them 3 genes that provide the pathways to P3HB production. When these genes have large carbon sources, they produce P3HB. So basically, the sugars created by the waste are used as food for the production of bioplastic. Once the P3HB is created, it can be processed as conventional plastics can, and it can be used for 3D printing. It is also very biocompatible, which means that when broken down into monomers, it can be found in the environment and the body, which makes it great for creating medical devices. A recycling system has also been created for this type of bioplastic so that it degrades and resynthesizes into P3HB for reuse. In layman's terms, it's so much cooler than conventional plastics. SRF bioplastic is the most cost-effective method of creating P3HB, and it can be used for large-scale production, which means it is a realistic replacement for conventional plastics. Only potential problem is, if companies and businesses are not aware of this innovation, it will lead to less funding and the inability to do large-scale production. By using SRF bioplastics globally, we can help put a stop to plastic pollution and the creation of non-biodegradable, harmful plastics. We can also reduce the amount of non-recyclable waste on our planet because now we've learned that even waste can be a resource. By switching to bioplastics made of waste, we won't have to make bioplastics out of crops, and so those crops can be used for better things such as, solving world hunger. By making the change, we will not only be helping the earth and wildlife, we will also be helping ourselves, because by using bioplastics, we will no longer have to fall victim to health problems caused by chemical leaching and will get the moral satisfaction of doing the right thing. We also won't have to be so dependent on non-renewable resources for our plastic. We might as well start implementing this new bioplastic method now, because in the future, we won't even have enough oil or natural gas to make plastic anyway. Lastly, the damage done by plastic pollution has a high global cost of $13 billion. If we stop plastic pollution now, that cost won't have to increase annually. While SRF plastics can put an end to future plastic pollution and all related problems, it cannot get rid of all the plastic that is already circulating throughout Earth. Remember, conventional plastic is not biodegradable, and even though SRF plastics can get rid of non-recyclable plastics within SRF waste, it cannot erase all the damage done in the past from plastic pollution, and it cannot purge the Earth of all conventional plastics. But if the SRF method, along with other compostable plastics, were to be the sole producers of plastic on Earth, we could put an end to plastic pollution. Now you must be thinking, is it really possible to change the global production of conventional disposable plastics to SRF bioplastics? Though conventional plastic producers might lose money, I believe it's still possible if businesses will be able and willing to make such great changes and use the technology and innovation that is given to them. SRF bioplastics are a realistic replacement for other plastics. We can only make the switch if people realize that getting rid of conventional plastics will be in everyone's best interest.